and welcome to GameGuru Classic and GameGuru Max broadcast number 118. And first, let me apologise for, if you hear it in the background, a massive storm going on outside. Lots of wind, lots of rattling roofs. So 10% of my attention might be a little bit to one side, just to keep looking out the window to see if the roofs are still on. So, welcome to the internal development reveal of what's going on in GameGuru Classic and Max Land. As always, this is split into several parts, and we keep splitting it like a cake more and more each time we do these broadcasts. We have a little bit of a reveal on Classic, so GameGuru Classic gets a look-see. Also, GameGuru Max gets a look-see. If you've got some questions, we'll be happy to answer them today. For those who are lucky enough to join us during the live chat, I'll pop up the chat window shortly so I can see what's going on. Hopefully everyone can hear me fine, loud and clear. And we're also introducing another segment, which of course after the answers, which I'll be able to provide in a Q&A, in the second general half of this broadcast, then we'll bounce everyone off to the Discord channel, where there'll be more opportunities to ask more questions in what we would like to call an extended Q&A. But this week we're going to be specific about the building editor that we recently released. So if you do have any questions about the building editor, you can hold on those and you'll get answers in the Discord part of the Q&A. And any non-building editor questions, please do fire away. Stick a question mark at the end if you're in the live chat, and we'll be able to quickly find those and answer them in the Q&A. And you can ask those questions right away. And let me just check the live chat. I think Zach will be with us. He is, so he'll be picking up any questions that he can answer right away and then repost them to me so I can answer them a little bit later on. So hopefully that's all understood. Everyone understands. Great, wonderful. Let's now move on to the first piece, which is the GameGuru Classic reveal. And it's not a demo, but I'm going to very much look forward to demonstrating it live in the near future. But for now, what I do have for you, a little special treat, is a video of the stuff that's coming to GameGuru Classic in a town near you. So let's run the video and see what you think. It's 3.37, so about 3 minutes long. I'll let you watch this and I'll shut up. Okay, so that gives you a pretty clear idea what's coming. I'd like to take some of the credit. I can't take any credit. That was the wonderful creation of Cybernescence. He's probably been working on it for like a year. It's a really good action-packed set of sky simulation tricks, lots of cool stuff. It is currently still in testing and it's going to be committed to the public repository. Then I'm going to do my bit, do some compiling, some testing, and once it all gels nicely with the latest version of GameGuru Classic, it goes out into an update. So I think the last update with a lot of fixes, so maybe this update is a big feature reveal, which of course is simulated sky. So you can thank Cybernescence for that, and I'm looking forward to revealing when you get your hands on it. So really cool. As some people probably mentioned in the live chat, hey, wait a minute, why is it that the GameGuru Classic Sky is now better than the GameGuru Max Sky? That's absolutely an absolute fair comment. We'll probably do something about that. Hey, but what can we say? Cybernescence just rocked it into the stratosphere and created all that cool stuff for you. So yeah, I'll let you know when that's available in an update. And of course, the usual feeds, the socials, our news channel, it'll also be in there with more details of how you get access to it and how to control it, things like that. So that's GameGuru Classic. Now let's step gently into the GameGuru Max universe. Okay, so what have I got to show you from GameGuru Maxland? Well, first a little bit of a news update. As some of you know, probably most of you know by now, I am very, very busy with what's called the DX12 conversion. That is turning what we used to have for quite a while, which was DirectX 11, into DirectX 12, which we have kind of done. But then there was a couple of issues with AMD cards, and the solution, it would seem, is a rewrite of the Shadow system. And it turned out the latest version of the Wicked Engine graphics system had a rewrite of the Shadow system, which highly likely would have fixed the AMD problem. So, as part of the DX12 conversion, we also said, well, let's upgrade to the latest version of the Wicked Engine. Of course, that threw us for a loop because quite a lot had changed since that repo and the last one we forked, which was 15 months previous. So, as you can imagine, quite a lot of additions and changes. And we're now in the middle of doing that. We are making progress. More and more is now up and running, compiling and looking like it should do, but we're still a ways to go. And until we get to the end of that, we're basically having to freeze additions and bug fixes that you might want to see next. But the benefit, of course, is when we finish this, we will have access to the very latest of the Wicked Engine goodies, and of course a performance boost and DirectX 12, and ever closer to our OpenXR VR system as well. So a lot of things will come raining down as gifts for us once we finish this DX12 conversion work. It's a pain that the internal team have to go through, but once it gets to the end, we'll be great. And then we can carry on with all the other cool things. Of course, as you've seen in previous broadcasts, that hasn't really stopped us releasing stuff. It's just we've got two parallel lines going on. The DX12 conversion, and of course, as you already know, the building editor. But before I get to show you, because I do want to show you a bit more about the building editor, we did get a request in from a few different directions, actually. Can you show us how to use the snap mode system? Because it's a bit of a mystery and we don't quite know how it works and how do we align, etc, etc. Can't give you a comprehensive tour because this is rapid fire live broadcast and we're not going to be here for 4 hours. And I look at the clock, we're already 30 minutes in and we want to leave some time for questions and answers. So I will show you the basics of Snap, and of course if there's any questions you can remember them for next week. I'm going to launch an empty level. Now this is still the DX12 version. That isn't the latest. It's the one that had the AMD issue in. So it's sort of DX12, but there's a better version coming along. And so what I'll show you is snap mode, and then I'll show you some building editor stuff. So if I drop in this, a concrete floor, by default it has no snapping. You just place it where you want. But if you grabbed another one and tried to line it up, chances are you won't be perfect. You'll be a couple of teeny weeny units off, microscopically out, and you end up with gaps or Z-clash overlap. Snapping mode solves that problem, so I'll show you how to activate it. By selecting an object that you're interested in using as a snap, go to grid and alignment settings and tick enable grid mode. And there's two different kinds of mode. There's this one, snap mode, where it doesn't really matter how big the object is, it figures out the dimensions of your object and it snaps to it. That's the easiest one, but for artists who are creating their own models, that's probably not the one you want. What you want is absolute control of your grid system, which is this one, grid positions. Now we've set it at 50, 50, 100, 100. What does all these numbers mean? Well, the grid offset is, we'll come to that later. The second set of values, the grid size, is the one you're more likely to relate to. This tile here is 100 by 100 in size, which means if I put that there and that there, they'll line up perfectly because these objects are 100 wide by 100 long, and so they snap perfectly together. If you're an artist and you create an object that's exactly those dimensions and have your grid set to 100, 100, they'll perfectly line up every single time. So that's how these two values work, the grid size. The grid offset is a bit of a more of a mystery. Right now it's set to 50, 50. All it really means is that, you know, the starting position. So let's say this is your first corner, and then you build everything off that, right? So it started here. There must be some coordinate value on the XZ axis, and that is set to 50, 50. Now if I set that to say 11, 11, watch what happens when I move this. So it's just moved back further by, I think, what would that be, about 39 in both axes directions. But now that offset's set, everything else will follow that new offset. So that's 11, that's probably 61, that's 101, 111, etc, etc. So that's basically the offset. And if we change it again to say 0, 0, which is something you might want to use, see, it's jumped back about 11, it's exactly 11. So that's the new offset. I want to show you some other things as well. Let's say you've already got a level and you've already got your tile. Let me just get off here for a moment. And you've arbitrarily placed it, you've built half your level, but now you want to set your grid off this object. This is your parent object. You want everything to relate to this 100 by 100 object at wherever it's placed. What you can do is select this, align grid offset to object. So it basically is going to calculate the offset based on where it is. So if you click that, it's at 66.3, 0.6. That's where it is. And now it's going to obey, that's your offset, and now your grid system will respect that, like so. And so if we get off again and we come over here, so for whatever reason, that is where I wanted it, grid system, dink, like so. And it just links to that. And the last button, just we're doing a little tour, align grid size to object. Anyone can guess what that is? If we bring in any other object, it could be anything, but something flat on the ground and something I don't already know is 100 by 100. And there's lots to choose from here. Let's see, what should we go for? About that wall column. See how that's not 100 by 100, it's a bit smaller. But what exactly is it? We can't talk to the artist who created that, I don't know. But we do want to have a perfectly lined up, use the grid system, but we don't know how big that is. What we can do is select this, align grid size to object. Now it turns out this object is 75 units on the x-axis and 66.7 on, so you'd never have guessed that. But now because of this system, we've got that size. And because that size is now put into the grid size, if we dragged in another one, it lines up perfectly with the first. And then it does it again. And that's on one axis. And if you go to the other axis, exactly. So that's how it works. Doesn't matter what the size of the object that the artist created, you can steal that. You can also figure out on an existing placement of an object where that offset is, and then you can stack all your grids. So that's a quick whistle-top tour of grid mode, both the snap mode and the grid positions can control the offset and the size. Now I know this is not a comprehensive grid system as compared to a 3D modeler. But GameGuru Max was never designed to be a full-blown 3D modeler. There are better tools out there for you to do that. Blender being a great free version you can try out, which will have an infinite variety. But at the end of the day, when you export your object, you'll export it of a particular size, and you'd expect a certain offset orientation to line everything up to those particular sizes. Some artists might have let's say 50 by 50, but create objects of 100 by 100, but they can drop to 50-50, set your grid size to 50-50, and it all clicks together mathematically using a mathematical grid, as opposed to snap mode, which is a little bit more whatever object you've got at the time, it will do its best to snap it together, and sometimes you just want the mathematical version, which is how this works. So just checking the clock. Hopefully that wasn't boring people who had absolutely no interest in grid. But it's not just for artists who create their own assets. If you've actually got objects stock from the library and you want to use a grid system to place them down rather than just freehand, then that's how you use this system as well. So that's the grid system. I want to quickly show you the second part of my presentation today, which is something I skipped over last time, and it may not have been immediately obvious what you can do. If you're interested in what this is the building editor. It lets you make buildings very, very quickly, and in the last broadcast I showed you how to use it, export it and drop the building into your level. This time I just want to show you some of the deeper, not the deepest levels, but some of the deeper levels. Square rooms are all fine and dandy, but sometimes you want to create like a complex. You know, you want to create like a base. Some buildings can be all shapes and sizes. So let me just come up here. I'll do this and I'll do that. Now it's 4 rooms, isn't it? But maybe you want this to be like the ground floor of a base. If we go to this one, toggle wall mode, you can hide those 3 walls. I know it's like a ghost, but that's just showing you that you can put the wall back if you want to. But obviously when you're in your game, those ghosts have disappeared because you removed the walls. So now this is a single floor. It's not 1 room now, but it's not 4 rooms now, it's 1 room. It just happens to look like that. And that's how the hide show. And if you want to kind of put a wall back, maybe you want a door in this first one, super simple. Just go back into the wall toggle mode, shows you where all the previous hidden walls were, and you can just click them to put them back. And let's see, in this particular case, I want like a security door to go through, but then once I'm through, I want my nice C-shape room. And the second thing I want to show you, I know some of this might seem a bit obvious, but we can't, that's deliberate. We wanted to make this as easy to use as possible. So sorry if I'm insulting your intelligence, but kind of it's a good thing if you've already figured it out. Is paint. So obviously every former room, I know this now a great big room, but it still remembers all of what we call the subdivisions. And you get control, every time you subdivide, you get control over a rectangle of that subdivision. So it could be this is the ante-room, so let me just drop in another door. See how easy it is to make doors and maybe some windows. Hold down, I think is it control? Yeah. No, it isn't, it's shift. So you hold down shift and you get to add multiple, I should put that there, that wasn't what I wanted to do. Yeah, hold down shift and you can have multiple windows if you wanted to. So I wanted a door, 2 windows, that window's free, I'm going to get rid of that window. Okay, and then you're in your first ante-room and then you're through here. So once you've got the key, probably hide the key somewhere, we want here, but I want this room to be completely different looking than the ante-room, and I don't want a carpet, thank you very much, I want metal floors. So again, go to paint mode, these are all these you can choose from. That looks like metal, it is. So that's like a metal tiled floor. I think I'd also like some metal walls. We got one. I think there was a checkerboard somewhere. I think that one is pretty sci-fi, isn't it? It could be very, yeah, alright, we'll use stripe here. But there's like a metal that looks like a deck plate, which I thought would look really good for walls. Now I just want to explain what you're seeing here. These are easy enough to do, but these, why are these? Now obviously it's a bit inconvenient to do that, and we are going to work on a version 2 feature called flood fill. So if you click on a wall but you kind of intend all the thing to be filled in with, you know, that's the same texture, it'll flood fill it all, including these corner pieces. These corner pieces are important in the sense that when you're creating rooms, you have what's called interior and exterior corner pieces. And you do need independent control of if it's an interior corner, you want to be able to paint that for the interior wall. You see this equivalent, but it's on the outside. If that was an inverted L, you want to be able to have a separate control to paint that with an external texture, an external wall texture, which is why you have those pieces. From this side, you want to see that wall again. And now we're using what's called a universal UV system, so it doesn't matter what sprouts up in terms of the geometry, the UVs will always line up. So now we've got what looks like a completely consistent wall all the way around, like so. And there we go. We could save that out if we wanted to. So you come into here, find a key, open the door, and then you go into this completely different looking set of rooms. Not necessarily all square rooms by hiding walls. You can have all kinds of shapes and sizes, etc. And one more thing that relates to paint, just in case you thought that paint mode was a bit long-winded, it's because this mode, it's super specific. It lets you paint individual things. There is another way to change quickly all the walls of a room. So we create a room like that. Is the edit mode, edit room. And here, if we select that, see this, you can change all the interior walls in one go. So wall interior, click that, choose that. Very quickly, you've changed all the walls of that particular room. So for example, you see these, what were formerly 3 rooms that we glued into one. If you actually did that first and change all your interiors and then hid the walls, you wouldn't have to go and paint the individual walls separately. So you can see there's multiple ways of achieving the same thing. And unlike the former EBE, the old structure editor, as you can see, you can create very large buildings if you want. There are some bug fixes that we've already put out into the EXP build. So if you have reported a bug in the very recently released building editor, it may already be fixed. So go check out the EXP build on Steam and you'll be able to check out the fixes in order of priority. And what I mean by that is things that crash get top priority. Things that no one's actually found out yet are the lowest priority. So that's what I wanted to show you for the building editor. Hopefully that was useful, and do let us know if there's anything else you would like to see demonstrated in future broadcasts on the building editor, and we will be featuring more about the building editor in the broadcasts to come until the whole subject is thoroughly exhausted and we end up with all the bugs fixed and a nice raft of feature requests for building editor version 2. And as I mentioned at the start of this broadcast, we're going to reserve all the building editor questions into the Discord a little later on. So have all your non-building editor questions ready and waiting for the next part of our live broadcast, which of course is the Q&A. Okay. So I'm going to see if I can find our live chat. I'm sure it's been very active. It's been very active, eh? And Zach's starting to post the non-building editor questions. Thank you very much. I'll rattle through these 4. Let's look at the clock. We're 20 minutes in. So let's probably do 4 plus 5. Let's do about 7-8 minutes of question answers here, and then we'll shift over to Discord. Anyone who wants to know where that is, just going to grab that link. I'm going to post it. Where are you going to post it, Lee? I'm going to post it there. So anyone who's in the live chat should be able to click that and get to the Discord, which will fire up in about 7 or 8 minutes after I bid adieu to anyone who's joining us live on YouTube. And for those who are in the recording, you won't be able to get answers to anything because this is in the past. Okay, let's look at some questions. But first, orange one. Any plans on adding an option to change the scale of textures for objects that do not have nor require a UV map? Change the scale of textures. Well, you need a UV map if you're going to have textures on an object. That's how textures know how big to render onto the surface. So you absolutely need a UV map. If you're talking about some auto UV, so you can choose like a box UV or a sphere UV, that's straying into the land of 3D modelers. And there's something like Blender, which lets you create those sorts of things. GameGuru Max's primary job is to have you create assets or find assets and then import them using the model importer, where the textures, the UVs, the geometry, the normals, all those have been decided, designed, created, and the importer simply gets it into a format that you can drop into your level and play with. So yeah, we're definitely not straying into the, oh, let's also be a 3D modeler. Here's another question. Can we get snapping on the y-axis? Requested very often. There is a limited snapping of the y, but when you start introducing the y-axis, and you've only got like one screen instead of some modelers have like 4 perspectives, and you can keep jumping to each of the 4 windows to control whether you're interested in the XY axis, the XZ axis, the XY axis, the ZY axis, etc., etc. So doing it all with just one window, it can get a little bit confusing. But I think we do have like, if you do the page up, page down, you can lock to the y-axis. I think snap mode also controls y-axis. But I think what you're talking about is the mathematical grid. Whereas you saw, you only had the grid for X and Z, which is your horizontal plane. And what you were clearly missing, and I agree with this, is there was no value for the Y. Can't you not snap on the Y? But again, how do you know where that mouse pointer is indicating? What plane are you interested in moving the object around, and what does it snap to? So that's the reason why Y isn't in there right away. But if you've got any clever and brilliant ideas, oh, we can sort of toggle between XZ and then XY or ZY, then that's how we're going to do it, I think, if you wanted vertical snapping. Third question, can you add a grid overlay that changes when you change the grid size? Yeah, it seems missing, doesn't it? You can see it in your head, but it'd be great if you could just see it visually, and as you change the grid size, you have like a sheet of graph paper that changes, so you can actually see where you snap to. It's a good idea. It wasn't like super important, because once you start clicking down the objects that you know the sizes of, you kind of don't want the grid in the way. You just want to see what you're adding down. But yeah, if it's not already a thing, post it into the issues board as a feature request for GameGuru Max. It's not super difficult, but it's not super crashy top priority. But if it isn't in the issues board, please post it there so we don't lose that suggestion. Here's a live question from JBird Max. Can we leave holes in the floor's ceilings? There are no floors and ceilings in the terrain. I assume you mean the building editor. So if you could post that into the Discord later, I'm sure Zach will be happy to answer that particular question because he's the expert with the building editor. Here's another question. Was there some sort of loose timeline on when the version 2 might start showing its head? I assume you mean version 2 of the building editor. So the building editor questions will be in the Discord. I get to just defer a lot of these questions to Zach, don't I? So if it's version 2 building editor, that's a version 2 building editor question that goes into the Discord. But yeah, just to give you a clue, we're still fixing up version 1, so we're not even thinking about version 2 yet. Hopefully that gives you a clue. This is a question from Duke229. I missed the classic news. Anything new? I'll leave the live chatters to fill you in on that. I'm pretty sure people don't want me just repeating everything I've just said. And of course it's on YouTube in about 30 minutes, so you can just watch the whole thing because it was a lovely video and very cool, and I'm sure you'll be excited when you see it, or I hope you are. Okay, so another question mark. Was there a release date for that also? I would need some context for that. Okay, I can't discard, my anti-spyware won't allow it. Sorry about that. Can we leave holes in the floors, ceilings was the original question. Well, I can answer that now. No, there is no plans that Building Editor version 1 will leave arbitrary holes in your ceilings. You'd have to, the only way you can get a hole now is to get a staircase. But I suppose you get a staircase, cut the hole, then hide the staircase. Because it is, Building Editor is producing smart objects. That means you've got individual objects. You could take control of just like a staircase and then hide it, maybe. Who knows? So there's probably a little hacky way, but officially there isn't any way to create hole in the Building Editor version 1. Sky's the limit. Indeed. I mean Max 2. So, if the question was any release date for GameGuru Max version 2, we haven't even finished GameGuru Max version 1. We're still in early access. We still have to add VR. We have to add RPG, puzzle, stability, and performance. All of those represent the completion of early access and version 1 of GameGuru Max. No one around here is thinking about version 2 of GameGuru Max. For our own sanity's sake. Okay, we've gone to the end of the live chat. No more question marks. But we are 33 minutes in. We have broke the 30-minute mark, so that feels rather appropriate that we bolt this one down, get it uploaded to YouTube so everybody else can check this one out later. For now, we are going to move over to the Discord chat. I'll just post the link again in case I snuck the last one in unfairly and you never saw it. So this is where we're going to be for another 10 minutes. I also want to telegraph that in a couple of weeks We'll be doing a couple of what's called pre-recorded broadcasts, where I will probably still be talking, but I won't be live. But the reason we've been doing these Discords is after that pre-record, we'll schedule a Discord live chat session, and Zach will be taking over those to answer as many questions in there as he can for a short amount of time. So it'll be pseudo live whilst I'm on holiday, but when I get back, everything will be normal, and we resume our normal broadcasts with Q&A in the YouTube style live broadcasting, and continue to do the Discord if it's popular. As we said last week, it's a bit of an experiment, and we've learned a few things, so let's see what happens this time. So until next Wednesday at 7 p.m. BST, because I'll still be around then, I shall bid you adieu and see you in Discord in about 30 seconds. So until then, I shall say goodbye.